let's get you the second issue that we're going to be discussing, and this is regarding the measures that have been taken by the Tamil Nadu government. In fact, these are measures that many have spelled out as dropping your guard during this pandemic. The Tamil Nadu government allowing theatres in the state to run in full capacity. 100% occupancy is going to be allowed. Now, this is at a time here when the central government has already stated that currently places of entertainment, theatres, movie halls are allowed to run only on 50% capacity. But the state has taken this decision because there was a direct request that came in from big actors, prominent actors, that includes Vijay and Silambarasan as well. In fact, this request came in that cinema halls be allowed to function at full capacity because new movies are slated to release. This is during and after Pongal celebrations, so let's keep the festivities up, has been the argument. But the larger concern is Tamil Nadu, particularly state capital Chennai, is still currently dealing with a number of hotspots. There are 2 hotspots at 5-star hotels, others that have been recorded earlier as well. Why has the Tamil Nadu state government taken this decision? Is this a risk that the state government here has taken? Let's in fact take a listen in some of those reactions to this decision that have come in.
This seems to be a very rash decision by the government of Tamil Nadu, because the pandemic is by no means over. And now there seems to be a new strain of the virus. Countries are going into full lockdown again. I'm not suggesting that we are the same situation as them. But it will be prudent to exercise abundant caution. At this time, to allow movie theatres, which are in closed environments and in close proximity, where people will be in close proximity of each other, is perhaps not the wisest thing to do.
Let's throw this open to our guests, our experts with us tonight. We have Professor Dr. J.A. Jayalal, who is the National President of the Indian Medical Association. We have Mr. N Venkatesh, Managing Partner, Woodlands Theatre, Chennai, Secretary of Tamil Nadu Theatre and Multiplex Association as well. But first to you, Professor Jayalal, on this decision that has been taken by the government, would you call this a risk?
Yeah, thank you very much. And definitely, we Indian Medical Association consider as a risky decision. In fact, the whole of Indian Medical Association in India, we were appreciating the government of Tamil Nadu for the enormous step they have taken to curtail the COVID pandemic in our state. And the mortality was also very significantly low. The infrastructure facility they created was very adequate. With that, with the stringent measures taken by the government, the rate has come down. But Tamil Nadu is one state which is very much interested to the cinema and cultural activities. So on the call of famous artists, the government has taken this decision. I will say this is a hasty decision. I will only appeal on behalf of the entire medical fraternity, the government of Tamil Nadu, to reconsider this decision. And we place an appeal to our entire population of Tamil Nadu that even though this is open, in view of the risk which is associated with that, please do not participate in this open space, the closed door cinema hall. It is prudent on your part, at the interest of the country and interest of yourself. Please stay away from these cinema halls and let us show that people of Tamil Nadu are more conscious, more self-health oriented, more community-oriented people. And even if it is open, and I know for sure, our people are not going to visit these cinema halls. However, we will appeal to the government to reconsider this decision at the earliest.
All right, so there's going to be an appeal to the state government to reconsider here on this. Professor Jayalal, it's interesting you say that here, coming in from the medical community, because the state government, in justifying their action, have been saying that they have consulted their medical committee and only then gone ahead with that decision. But bear in mind that thought, stay with us.
Yes,
we're coming to you in just a bit here, going across to other voices as well. Mr. Venkatesh here, you're from the Tamil Nadu Theatre and Multiplex Association. Of course, business has been very badly hit in the past 1 year. But do you think 100% occupancy is worth the risk. We do not want a scenario here where a theatre becomes a hotspot.
Madam, the 100% occupancy we can expect only in the first 4 days of the megastar film being released. It's not that 100% comes every week, 24/7. Only first 4 days we can expect that occupation. Afterwards, it comes down to less than 50%. So there is not much of a concern for us that this 100% occupancy runs throughout the week. And we opened the theatres on 11th of November. In these 2 months, we have taken many precautions in running the theatre temperatures to the level suggested by ICMR. The rule in Tamil Nadu states that we have to run the air condition at 28 degrees centigrade plus or minus 5. And ICMR, the norms suggested in malls and other air-conditioned places is between 24 to 30. So within that parameters, we are working. Plus, where the air condition, we have installed in most of the centralized air conditioned theaters, we have installed microbiological filters, which act as an antivirus thing. So we have taken all the measures as suggested, and we will be the last person to be at risk of the public, cine public, having suffered and closed down the theaters for no fault of us in the past 8 months. When we closed down the theater, the number of corona cases was 300 on 16th of March. In the absence of cinema theaters, the corona cases in India has crossed 10 lakhs. So we are not the culprits for the spread of coronavirus. And when we are opening, again targeting us, because we are a soft target for the entertainment industry, I don't know why this hue and cry when in open places, in malls and all, there is no social distancing.
But Mr. Venkatesh, please, this is not a case of anyone being targeted. This is just on the larger concern. We understand your dilemma here, but while you say ICMR guidelines, norms, central government guidelines being followed, social distancing is clearly not on that list. If cinema halls are running on full capacity here. Let's also get in Mr. Vivek Reddy, spokesperson of the BJP Karnataka, with us this evening. We also have Mr. Kovai Satyan, spokesperson of the AIDMK. But first to you, Mr. Vivek Reddy, in your opinion, why is this such an emergency that would have a state government violate central government norms, which is very clearly stating a 50% capacity?
Well, I think that is really, really strange that there should be such a tearing hurry to open it up to full capacity. I think the central government guidelines are supposed to be sanctimoniously followed by the state governments. This is number one. And more than that, in principle, it is the safety of the people that should be of the utmost concern. And having regard to this safety, the yardstick fixed by the central government cannot be violated by the state governments at their will. At least the state government should have this minimum sensitivity to ensure that this guideline is adhered to in the interests of larger public health and safety issues concerning coronavirus. And throughout the world, we are seeing the second wave. There is a immediate danger or a vulnerability to the second wave, and we are somewhat somewhat contributing to the second wave by allowing closer the stacking of people or closer, higher density of people visiting the cinema theaters. And cinema theaters are enclosed halls. You know, they are like these enclosed AC halls or aircrafts, which is very dangerous. I mean, we cannot take it so lightly. I wish the state government was more sensitive to the central government guidelines. I wish it was more concerned about the people's health, and also that it had to ensure that this guideline was not just diluted at will. So therefore, these larger questions that people are asking today is, can this be allowed so easily? I mean, as the state government yielded to the cinema, in the interest of the cinema world, is this also a issue that the state government has compromised? It has failed to balance the interests of the health of the people. These issues stand out today, and this is some sort of a rash decision by the state government. That's what we feel.
Okay, a lot for Kovai Satyan of the AIDMK to respond to this here. Kovai, please go ahead because on why this is such an urgent situation. It's of course a question of watching movies, which isn't entirely stopped right now. It's still allowed on 50% capacity. Why push it up to full capacity here? This is at a time when other pressing issues aren't being addressed by the government. Schools are still shut. There are 67 UK returnees which are still untraceable. That should be a bigger concern here.
Yeah, I would be happy to answer if somebody presents the facts as it is, rather than making political statements and making assumptions of their own. And my counterpart, respected Vivek Reddy, let me remind you, it was your state which gave nod for Ganapati Bamba Moria celebrations when the COVID pandemic was at peak. So we know our business. So we have not crossed our limits to comment what is right, what is wrong for your state. So I would expect the same decorum from you. So there is no pressing urge or whatsoever it is on the state government. On November 10th, we gave the nod for the theatres to open with 50% of capacity, following which the shopping mall is open. We extended the time of retail showrooms to be open from 9 p.m. till 10 p.m. So everywhere there is a drop in footfalls. Even last week there was an announcement of increasing in the public transport. So we as a state have demonstrated how to handle this COVID pandemic effectively, keeping the equilibrium of livelihood and as well as economy in a very good balance. And for your kind information, we have given astounding healthcare facilities by minimizing the death ratio, which is by far the lowest in the nation. So we as a state government are the custodians for the welfare of the people, are very much aware what is that we are doing, how it is taking shape, and where to put the brakes if it is
Right.
going out of hands. So there is a trust. It is the Cinema Theatres Owners Association which represented and
Mr. Kovai Satyan, a very simple question here. In keeping in mind the central government COVID appropriate behavior guidelines here, how are we looking at social distancing being maintained within the cinema halls? Are there going to be extra chairs put in? What is this preparation here where you say which is going to be done, being very careful about it?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Shopping malls are open, public transport is open, religious places of workshops are open. Everywhere there is a protocol which is being followed, there is a screening which is happening, and everywhere, for your kind information, people have the highest awareness how to handle themselves in this COVID pandemic. And state is there to ensure that situation doesn't go out of our hands. And there is a very strict monitoring that is also happening, and there are teams which is being set up. So let's not go by the assumption that everybody is going to throng the movie theater the moment it is open. It is November 10th, May, we have opened 50% occupancy. So this is not something new. We are showing the ways and doors for the people. Go throng the cinema. That is not like that. Here people are sensible. So let us not first have the assumption that people are not aware how to handle themselves. Let us not have the assumptions that there is no mechanism to monitor. Let us not have assumptions that this is going to go wrong and we don't have a mechanism to control it. So let us be more sensible with facts and figures, and let us trust the people. And yes, they are also responsible. They are also very well matured, and there is a great amount of awareness that has gone into them. That is evident by the footfalls drop in multiplexes.
But
In
Mr.
retail.
Kovai Satyan, you did not trust people. Mr. Kovai Satyan, the government did not trust people at the time of Christmas and New Year celebrations. This is one of the strictest guidelines that we'd seen in the state government, by the state government in Tamil Nadu, where beaches were shut, where flyovers, crossings were barricaded and shut entirely. So those were restrictions that the government was mindful of. And now when you have popular superstars, big actors such as Vijay putting in a direct appeal to the state government here, why would you want to go all the way and undo all the good that has been done in the past of bringing down the COVID numbers? We are still in a very vulnerable situation. We are still struggling with the new strain of COVID-19 as well. There are 67 UK returnees, as I mentioned at the start of my question to you as well, which are still untraceable by the Tamil Nadu government. Where is this confidence coming from, please? Because as you say, as the government says that they have consulted a medical committee as well, we have a very senior person from the medical community. We have Professor Jayalal, the national president of the IMA, saying here that it is unfortunate that the state government has taken this decision. Professor Jayalal, please go ahead. If we have the AIDMK here say that why are we presuming this is going to be a disaster, does that argument convince you?
No, definitely not. But I fully agree with Gobe Satyan in the statement that the Tamil Nadu government is a one government which has taken all steps possible to prevent the further progression of the disease. But at this juncture, when, as you rightly said, the new strain which we are yet to the medical community, it is literally we are afraid and what extent it is going to cause the devastation, where we are not able to trace the 67 people. I think I'm sure it is not wise at this moment to place open the entire medical theatre for the 100% occupancy. Our Honorable Mr. Narayaneswamy sir said they are going to adopt the microbial surveillance. Sir, it is not possible in such a big hall to maintain a microbiological barrier in that. You take flight. The flight, yes, they are allowing the people, but the precaution which they take, everyone has to wear the face mask. Everyone in the middle seat has to wear the entire the PPE kits. So that is not going to possible in a population which is going to throng onto the theatre. You said it is only for 4 days. Even 1 day is enough. Any exposure more than 30 minutes is good enough to spread the disease. So we know the facts. Tamil Nadu is such a mature state. We know we have adopted and sincerely followed all the means. The Indian Medical Association feel there is no hurry on our part to respond to the call of these film stars to open it and bring a Pandora box into the Tamil Nadu. I will once again appeal to even actor Vijay in the good sense with the social responsibility. Let him come out and withdraw his statement of requesting the government to open the hall, and the government should also reconsider this decision. And the goodwill which we have maintained, the good stride which we have made, let us make it possible to make our country, make our state free from this COVID in the near future. Thanks.
Right. Mr. Venkatesh, what we just heard, that let's not presume that people are going to throng cinemas. This is a very, very particular purpose that big actors such as Vijay had brought in as a request to the state government, that this is a festive season. This is going to be part of Pongal celebrations here. Actors such as Vijay's film releases that are due to come in. Are we being naive in presuming people are not going to throng cinemas? How are you going to be doing that crowd management? Does that not worry you?
No, there is no. The Tamil Nadu government has given us clear instructions stating that between every show, there is a specific time period. In that, we have to do the sanitizing work and everything. So even the government has restricted the number of shows, and we are also see that the crowd movement is also limited. And the Tamil Nadu government is maintaining the best checks, after checks, and there is always a person from the health department who is monitoring all the theatres. And we will be the last person to do anything adverse so that it affects our own business. And the government is not giving us any free hand to go away any of the COVID safety measures. So even before Vijay had given this call, our association had already given that we are already following the corona safety measures. Please allow us 100%. So it is, and after seeing all the measures taken, the government, which is always benevolent to the industry, and we were the last person to get this 100% occupation ratio. Though we got the theatres opened on 11th of November, we never got any more than 10% occupancy in any theatre. And even this 100% occupancy, even if we are allowed, we are not going to get 100% occupancy for any of the shows throughout the week. So there is not much fear, even among the multiplex or the cinema theatre owners. Because in corona, it was only 40 to 50% occupation.
Mr. Vivek Reddy, does that sound convincing here? Because these are going to be restricted shows, but it takes one show with 100% capacity to, God forbid, become a super spreader, because the conditions that you listed out, this is sitting shoulder to shoulder, this is sitting in an enclosed area here, and it could take just one show to do that damage.
I think the super spreader chaos is something that the government seems to have overlooked. If 3 days ago the government prevented beaches from being prohibited beaches from being used as celebratory spaces for New Year, and it prevented public gatherings 3 days ago.
Okay, we're going to be trying to reconnect with Mr. Vivek Reddy here on that in just a bit. But Mr. Kovai Satyan, if you've understood the nature of concerns here that are coming in, this is very evidently going to become a scenario of violating certain norms listed by the central government.
It is not so. We have taken into consideration of all the parameters. If you would allow me or give me a minute, uninterrupted one. Let me remind you, it was the state of Karnataka which opened liquor outlets ahead of all the other states when the COVID pandemic was there. So was it a sensible decision by them? Or have they not considered about the lives of the people then? So let me remind you, let's compare apple with apples, not apple with oranges. You're talking about restriction in beaches because I have a 70-kilometer beach. I don't have the infrastructure. I cannot create overnight infrastructure to restrict people to come in there. Wherein a cinema movie hall is a premises wherein the entries can be restricted. And there can be a tighter monitoring process and there can be a better infrastructure for monitoring as well. So let us compare those two. And I have not opened the beaches during Diwali to celebrate and closed it down because of Christmas and New Year. So let us be more realistic when we compare. And let's have our hypothesis clear. It is not because of actor Vijay we have acceded to the request of opening 100%. It is purely because of Theatres Owners Association, and this industry has direct and indirect employment. It contributes to the economy to a larger extent, and it is a duty of the state to balance and maintain a right equilibrium between the economy as well as the livelihood of the people, which we have demonstrated in these times, and we are demonstrating till now better than all the other states. So we are aware of what we are doing, and there is a panel of medicos with us as well, and who are guiding us, and who have been guiding us through the toughest of times, and we have emerged successful. So let's cultivate that hope amongst the people that this is a time of pandemic, not the time of celebration or enjoyment. So let's everybody collectively be responsible, rather than trying to set a narrative saying that no, the onus lies only with the state government. It doesn't lie with the people. It doesn't lie with XYZ. Everybody is a stakeholder when we want to win this pandemic. So let us not point finger at others saying that it is going to be this, you are responsible for it. Everybody is collectively responsible for a success story to be scripted or a devastation to be scripted.
All right, Mr. Vivek Reddy, you were speaking before we got disconnected here.
Yes.
Also, further to add into what you were saying there, can the central government step in if the larger sense is that this is a scenario that threatens to bring about a rise in cases? Tamil Nadu effectively, of course, is looking at a dip in cases per day, but there are still certain hotspots that even the capital city, Chennai, is still dealing with.
Well, I think, first of all, it's the call of the state government. The state government's prerogative here is, and its choice on policy is not something that the central government will interfere with. That is taken. But what I'd like to just ask or put in priority is the sensitivity to which the government has reacted in this manner, which was also stated by Mr. Jayalal. Well, was it right at this instance, at this point where there is a threat of a second wave? Was it right to do it at this stage? That is a policy decision. Perhaps the government has overlooked, having regard to the sensitivities of the film industry, because Tamil Nadu employs a large number of people in film industry. It is one of the richest film industries or the most prolific film industries in India. And that concern is also there for the state government. It has to balance the livelihood of those involved in film industries, which is really in a very bad shape at present throughout India. So while balancing this, I think this was a call which was too early to take, and the government should have waited. And why I asked Mr. Satyan that this perhaps is you have pressed the button too early is because when you wanted beaches to be, safeguarded, well, you have to have these places to be safeguarded. Suppose, Mr. Satyan, a COVID positive patient walks into a cinema hall. It is an enclosed hall. Beaches perhaps are more safer because, there is free air moving around. But in an enclosed cinema hall, Mr. Jayalal would also certify to this. In an enclosed cinema hall, the super spreading events could just, take fire and could spread like wildfire, which is dangerous. And this is where the government, I feel, should have been more sensitive, more protective, and more careful and cautious in moving forward. This is not an occasion to compare interstate activities or interstate COVID responses. This is not a platform for that, Mr. Satyan, because each state has reacted in its own fashion. But no state has violated the 50% cinema regulation that is kept in, and everybody has held the line of the central government. I feel that this is where the government has to review and get proactive to protect the people's interests.
Mr. Kovai Satyan, is the state government, can we look at a possibility of the state government re-looking into this decision, given the nature of concerns that have been raised here, and Tamil Nadu is still not recording as a zero COVID state? There's no reason why we should have 100% occupancy being pushed up in this level right now.
Yeah, I welcome Mr. Reddy's last statement. It's a state, it's a decision of the state government, and they are the owners of the same. And every state is on the path to set the new near normal standards. So my adjacent state, Kerala, opened the schools. It's open for the last week, but I am not still opened it yet. So what I'm emphasizing here is everybody is aware, the government is aware, and the mechanism is all fully geared up. And this is a state which has set up 2,000 mini clinics in each and every localities to screen patients not only of COVID symptoms but of any symptoms of flu. So for your two times you mentioned about the new strains of coronavirus found in Chennai. From November 21st onwards, there are 1,000 plus people who came from UK. But the new strains started emerging from the last 2 weeks. So the government is aware of the context of the same. But we are tracking from the people who came from November. So we have a mechanism in place.
That's right.
And our mechanism is capable enough to
there's a mechanism in place. When you talk about contact tracing, there's 67 UK returnees still that the state government is struggling with. I'm going to leave the final word here with the doctor with us on the panel, the medical expert, Professor Jayalal. This is particularly keeping in mind on what the Tamil Nadu, very quickly if you may please, the Tamil Nadu government also justifies this decision that all checks and balances are in place, and more importantly, this is a go-ahead that they went ahead with only after consulting their medical committee. Does that gel well with you? Would any expert medical committee right now be looking at a go-ahead in this scenario?
As a nationalist perspective, as an on behalf of IMA, I would say this is a hasty decision. Definitely, we are progressing well in controlling the COVID, and we are on the verge of getting this vaccination in their country and getting a herd immunity. And once after the introduction of the vaccination, the herd immunity, we will be a much more safe place. And probably this is not the right time to open the 100%. And once again, our appeal on behalf of the medical fraternity is to reconsider.
All right, so the timing is wrong. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it at that. We're completely run out of time, but appreciate all of you gentlemen speaking to us here on this. The Tamil Nadu government needs to reconsider. This is the wrong timing here, and let's not quote past instances of theatres not running into packed halls here, because this is Pongal celebrations. We are expecting a heavy footfall, and each one of us need to be careful there. Thanks for being with us.